And it looks like we're live. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I am so excited to be here today. I have three of some of the most prominent SEO conference organizers and founders here with me. I know you probably all know I got up top with Brett Tabke. Brett is based here in the United States, like me. I'm Shelly Fagan, actually. I totally forgot to say that. But Brett is the founder of PubCon Inc. He's also worked in the computer industry, over 3 decades? Under 3 decades, way under 3 decades.
Almost 4.
Almost 4. Oh, you got to update your bio, Brett. One of the coolest things I think that I appreciate about Brett's background is all the terms he's coined that we all use every day in the search industry. Probably one of the most common is SERP. I don't know if y'all knew that. I think that's super cool. And link farm, we hear that a lot as well. And I feel like you've named some conferences, or not, some algorithm updates, some Google updates as well. Very exciting. Welcome, Brett. Yes, here's
that's me on the left. That was from 2011. That was me and Danny Sullivan and Mike Green and Matt Cutts. That was the 3 big conferences in the States anyway. Danny at SMX and Mike at SES. So both of whom are no longer in business.
Oh.
Yeah, that was from 2003, I believe. That was PubCon 3 in London at the old City York pub on High Holborn there.
Awesome.
Somebody wore a spam outfit there. Jason did. So.
So we also have Kelvin Newman. Kelvin is also he's based in the UK. He's the founder of Rogue Agenda. Is that correct? The company name that specializes digital marketing events, including the renowned Brighton SEO. I've also heard that you've won Search Personality of the Year award in the UK.
A while ago, yeah. My personality is no longer award-winning. It was for a short period of time, but like, yeah, many a decade ago now. So yeah, I'm just a boring personality now. That side of things, but yeah.
That's amazing. I love that. We'll have to hear that story. We also have Ari Abu Ali, and she is also based in the UK. You're the founder of Crawlina. Did I say that right? You're an SEO consultancy, technical SEO on site, very much. And then the creator of the Women in Tech SEO global community. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Excited to have you here. So I know we do have some presentations prepared. So I'm going to pivot to Brett and let you take over. And then we're going to come back for some Q&As. So make sure if you got some questions, queue them up in the chat. We'll be asking them live after the presentation.
Cool. Yeah. So kind of the premise of today was let's talk about, well, first off, let me back up to slide 1 here. Let's talk about stuff that's new and what people are going to get out of conferences and why you should attend a conference and what the total value is. Because when we think about things, going to a conference, you got time out of the office, you've got expense in travel, you've got expense in hotels, you've got just the time out of the office, and you got to have value, you got to have ROI from that. So we thought we'd just put together me and Kelvin and a reach presentations to kind of try and walk you through that, why it's a thing. So this presentation I put together, it's at pubcon.com/data.pdf if you want the deck. So starts off with, for me, it's all about the networking. You know, you've got mentorships, you've got contacts, you've got branding. And when I think about it, the first conference I went to was an SES. I think it was San Jose in 1999, one of the first. And I met like Greg Bozer, who's still a good friend today. And if I have questions about it, search, I can call him and ask him. Adam Jewell, I met him in the same time. great affiliate. If I have questions about affiliate, I can call him or contact him online. And these contacts just go on and on and on. Would I have been able to make those kind of contacts and know these kind of people for 2 decades had I not gone to that conference? Probably not. So it's a great bonding experience. You really get to know people and get in the know of what's going on in your sector and segment by meeting people hands-on. Excuse me. You can also use a conference to expand your knowledge. Obviously, there's going to be things there that are not necessarily in your wheelhouse, as we say in the States. You're going to get exposed to things you normally don't get exposed to day to day in your job from experts in their field that you can take back and apply. Everything from just leveling up the game of what you already know, whether that be something like PPC or organic search or marketing in general or content marketing. Also, a lot of conferences offer certifications or certificates of completion. By all means, take it. You're going to want to put that on your resume. Anything you can go on your resume, professional credentials is worth putting on your CV. So this one is highly underrated. I call it office props. So you go to a conference, go ahead and every session you go to, write down 3 things. Then put those 3 things on a slide from every session you go to. When you get back to the office, ask everybody for 10 minutes, a quick meeting with the team, and show them this PowerPoint of what you learned and why you went to this conference, what you got, and 3 action items, just 3. Just take home 3 things that you want the team to do. Don't take home 100. Take home 3 things. Don't try and change everything. Just take home 3 simple things. Otherwise, everybody gets all, oh, you're going to change everything. We don't want anything to do with you. So take 3 things home with you that you can apply that are going to give you ROI. And your boss will love this. If you're in a corporate environment, even a small business, bosses love this stuff. After you go to a conference for a bit and you see how the conference operates, by all means, step up and, pitch to speak. Conferences are always looking for good people to speak on specific topics, very niche topics in today's conference world. These big, broad, blue sky topics just don't cut it anymore. You got to be very specific and very niche with whatever your area of expertise is. So. Like I said, game plan on sessions, go down the list, check here, check there, check the next one. And if you go with coworkers, don't go to the same sessions unless it's a keynote or a general session at the same time. Attend different sessions, cover everything, and have your partner write up something about the conference they attended as well. And do it while you're at the conference. It's so much easier. It's easier to remember while you're at the conference than once you get back home. So. And as I said earlier, CV building, put this stuff on your resume. By all means, put it on your resume. And it's no secret, a lot of people attend conferences just looking for jobs. Go stand to stand at the expo booth, at the display booths, talk to people, get to know people, whether it's services or product. Ask people who's hiring, who's looking for people, and find out who's looking for something, and get to know them a little better. Maybe have a drink with them after. All the good business goes on in the bar or the pub afterwards. I mean, that's where we got the name PubCon, as we started in a pub, a bunch of guys getting together to talk shop and have a beer on a Saturday afternoon in London. So by all means, job hunting is huge at conferences, and don't be afraid to send your people to conferences in case they're job hunting as well. If they're going to go job hunting, they weren't yours to keep in the first place. Just tee them up right and send them out the door, and they will have a good time and bring home something. So another big thing is you can really get clued into what is leading edge topics. Almost every conference I go to related to marketing has something about leading edge stuff. Like in February, we happen to be in the right place at the right time to talk about AI and content marketing and content generation and how it relates to all these other new paradigms of what Google's doing and what Bing is doing. So by all means, we had a bunch of people come just to see what was going on with those topics specifically. And you can too. If you want to attend a conference just for insights, it's outstanding. You will hear things at conferences months before you hear them online, and what has come to pass. We talked in February about what all the moves Google's already made, all the moves Bing is making, all the moves OpenAI is making before we actually knew them. It was easy to predict in February because we had experts on these panels. That's what they do. They watch the market and see where it's going, and we're all kind of futurists. You know, on Facebook, there's kind of a running meme. 1 month, well, gee, all my friends were experts on the US Supreme Court, and now they're experts on elections, and now they're experts on OpenAI, ChatGPT. Well, it's kind of true. You know, we get good at learning stuff, and we dig in, and we know where to learn, and we know how to learn, and we share that knowledge we acquire with other people. So you go to conferences to hear from these experts that are really good at learning stuff and really good at sharing stuff. So there's no question there will be parts of your experience you don't have handy that you're going to need to learn when you go in there, especially beyond your field. For me, I'm kind of blind in a couple of spots right now. You know, I used to know PPC inside and out, but it's just gotten so complicated now with all the changes Google has made, all the changes the social engines have made, social media places have made, Twitter, Threads. We have all these new outlets and formats and models that I can't keep up with it. So I actually set through a bunch of sessions, and I make sure I moderate a bunch of sessions of topics I just need to learn about. So you can definitely expand your knowledge beyond that. And you can meet some of the famous folk in the industry. You know, they come to speak at everything, whether they're clients. You can meet vendors. You can go up to exhibit booths and meet folks. Like we have Microsoft Clarity is our title sponsor to name drop for September. And they're going to bring a whole bunch of people to do nothing but talk to webmasters, site owners, SEOs, PPC people, and marketers, just to help them out and help themselves out a little bit too with notoriety. So that's kind of all I got. While I was digging through this, I couldn't believe how many blog posts over the years we have done about getting the best out of the conference. So I just started with about 10 that I spotted here. 2, 4, 6, 7 of them that I spotted were pretty good. Everything from the classic how to give a presentation with a hangover that was our #1 blog post of all time. It got top page at Dig when Dig was a thing back in the day, and it keeps getting shared and reshared, and it was reshared already yesterday on Reddit after I posted it on Twitter. Somebody found it, and we got another couple thousand views on it. So it's a great little post, and there's a whole bunch of them there. I left all these links in there at where I put the presentation up /data on PubCon /data.pdf. For us, next thing is PubCon Pro, our annual big conference down in Austin, September 19th through 21. Workshops the 19th, Expo 20 and 21, conference and Expo. 5 tracks. We just actually lined up our keynotes this week. We're going to have Bill Hunt, well-known SEO, author, 25 years in the business, knows SEO inside and out. Bill's going to kick us off. Then we're going to have somebody from Google. I think Gary Elise is coming, and Fabrice is coming back again from Bang Canal. And then I think we're going to have somebody from Microsoft Clarity as well, Sharon Peng, and I believe one other from a search engine as well that I'm not going to release just yet. I'm waiting to confirm on that. So great conference all lined up for this fall. So that's all I got, folks. Appreciate the time. Thanks to Anton for having us on here. So exciting.
Awesome tips there, Brett. Thank you. Brett, can you actually say where everyone can get that slide deck from?
PubCon.com/data.pdf. I'll throw it in chat.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, Kelvin, you are up. Let's hear all about Brighton SEO.
Yeah. So I've got a bit of a kind of like sense of, the story behind Brighton SEO and how we came to be. And obviously there's going to be some people who have been to the event. Andy just mentioned in the chat that he's coming along to the future one, and other people have never kind of come across this ever before. So a slightly different tack to Brett there, but kind of talking a little bit about our kind of story and history to kind of, I suppose, provide a bit of context for for who I am and what kind of the event that I'm involved in organising. So Brighton SEO Search Marketing Conference. I always say you can tell that a SEO named Brighton SEO because it's about SEO and it's in a place called Brighton. So very hugely, impressively imaginative name that came up there. But a marketing event that started out in the UK, and we're in the process at the moment of the story. The story is the pub start one. But it's started in the UK and now we're in the process of launching a US event in San Diego. So simple premise really, much like many of the other events that we're going to talk about here and many other events that occur, but it's this idea of bringing together speakers who want to share the knowledge, and that's a big part of what the event's about. So started out like many a fun idea as a conversation in the pub, the idea was, well, wouldn't it be great if we could get together and share ideas and chat about the interesting stuff that that we were interested in. And then so the logic was Brighton SEO initially was kind of a very informal initially it was just a hashtag on Twitter for people to find people who worked in SEO in Brighton. And then it was like, well, let's all go down the pub to have a bit of a chat. And then it was like, well, actually the logic was, well, if we put some presentations on, we can go down the pub at lunchtime rather than waiting till after work. And that was the logic. And then from there we kind of, first event we had room for 30 people and 40 people showed up, so we booked a bigger venue for the next time round. We had over 100 people, 120 people showed up. I just went through this kind of process of moving to ever larger venues. So now we get about 6,000 people a year coming from 100 different countries to the UK event. I'd be struggled to name all the different countries that people travel from, which is obviously hugely gratifying. We do all the usual stuff. So there's conference stuff there. There's workshops. We do fringe events. Lots of networking opportunities from the usual sort of like drinky evening party stuff. But we'll do stuff like beach cleans, yoga sessions. We do a 5K run. We do roundtables and all sorts of different things really. And I suppose it's just that kind of intention to do our best job of kind of bringing together people who are interested in search and environment where they can learn from each other, meet, learn, and do their job a little bit easier really. But I suppose that's it really. I mean, we've got kind of an interesting approach in terms of our business models, a little bit unusual compared to some other events, which allow us to do things that's like a freemium offering really. So there's a whole bunch of free tickets that we distribute. I think Andy was saying that he won in one of the ballots that we've done. So that's a big part of what we think makes us special and allows us to kind of invite all these people along. It's by the sea, which helps in the atmosphere of the event as well. So that's my introduction to me, and I'm kind of looking forward to having a chat with everyone and sharing our collective knowledge about like what people can take from events, if people want to be participating in events, how they can make the most of that, and really sort of share that experience of organizing events over the last sort of number of years. I never say how many because it's like more than I'd like, but in a not in a bad way, but just like makes me feel old when I start talking about it in that way.
I totally feel you there. Awesome. I am very excited actually. Simon actually, because Simon Cox is asking, what is the weirdest speaker request that you've had?
I can dive in there because I've got one that's a relatively unusual one. It's not the brown M&Ms, although that's a good sort of like Wayne's World one to drop in there. But no, ours was, and it was surprisingly difficult to solve. So there's a speaker who we had, who was a keynote speaker called Dave Trott, who we've had a couple of times actually. But when he came to speak the first time at Brighton SEO, we were like, okay, so are you going to send us a PowerPoint? Are you going to do that kind of thing? It's like, oh no, I just use slides, OHP. So we had to try and find. It was actually we found something in the end, but like he wanted like at school. Probably some of you are too young for this, but there would be the kind of like overhead projector where there'd be the clear bit of plastic that you'd write on with a pen, or they'd have that pre-printed. And that was kind of like an interesting one. We kind of go, we need one of those old school OHP things, but also that would still work on a 30-foot screen. So that was kind of a strange request there, where it's like, I need to be able to do marker pens and OHPs there. So that was, not a unglamorous one, but a surprisingly tricky one to track down.
I can imagine. I remember using those in elementary school. Haven't seen one in years. Brett, any PubCon weird speaker requests?
No, we had one guy, it was like 5 minutes before he went on stage. He goes, "Where's my Diet Coke?" What? He goes, "That was my only requirement, was the speaker fee, and I need a Diet Coke before I go on stage." Well, thankfully, this was about 20 feet away from a small vending machine. So I ran over and got him a Diet Coke because he wasn't going on until he drank a Diet Coke. That's the only one. That, and we had our only, I got to be careful. I don't want to call him out. We had a speaker cancel at like the 11th hour, and quote, he had the flu. Well, apparently he didn't tell his wife about the flu because his wife posted pictures of him and her on the beach the next day. Never did hear the real story, but he's never going to talk about PubCon again. Very famous dude too.
Oh, wow.
That's our only keynote in 20 years that is ever canceled. So
that's rough.
The morning of the conference. Thankfully at PubCon, cool. We're lousy with speakers. So I just like, "Hey, you want to give a keynote?" Great. And so he just walked up on stage and gave it. So
Arish, any weird speaker requests on your end?
All my speakers are women, and women are brilliant. So I haven't had any weird requests come through. They've all been efficient. No one cancels. Everyone sends their slides a month in advance. Everything's been perfect.
That's awesome. I kind of figured as much. Maybe not the slides in advance. That kind of shocks me, but awesome. Oh my gosh. It's kind of funny. I find it ironic that we have two conferences here that both got their starts in the UK in pubs, which is very interesting. Arish, can you give us a background on how Women in Tech SEO started? If I remember right, you started as like a community. And you evolved. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so Women in Tech SEO has been around for 4 years now. And I think, initially it was just a Facebook group, and then it became a Slack group. And then I think our first meetups were very small local meetups in London, like on a monthly basis. And we do some of those, like, your typical type of evening meetup. We'd have 1 or 2 speakers or so on. And then in the first year, I started thinking about how I would love to have like a full day conference. And so we held our first one in March 2020, a week before pandemic lockdown. So we were very, very lucky. And it was 150 of us in a full day conference. And when I announced the conference, we sold out tickets in like 2 weeks. I could not believe it. It was like the first time I ever organized anything at this scale. And yeah, it's just been going on since. Earlier this March, we had our 4th London festival. We're up to 500 people now attending that one. And next year, we are going to be hosting in London, Berlin, Philadelphia, and a 4th location. And this September, 2 months' time exactly, we are doing our first Philly one, which is very, very exciting. Because we just have like lots and lots of US. So yeah, I like to think of it as a celebration of our community. Like, we come together to meet each other in person and celebrate one another. And we always have, brilliant women speaker lineups. And we just, kind of get to meet one another after all the day-to-day online conversation that we tend to have. Getting like some kind of like gathering in place is really cool.
I love that. Can you tell us a little bit about the community and some of the benefits and how to join?
Yeah, so completely free, open for all women who have any form of interest in SEO or technical SEO. We have people from all levels of seniority. There is no such thing as a stupid question. It is a safe, judgment-free zone for everyone who wants to join and ask any kind of question they have. Our values are to be kind and to be helpful and to be respectful. And if you go on womenintechseo.com, you can find all the details. We're on Facebook, we're on Slack, and we have tons of initiatives like our newsletter and our podcast and our mentorship program and our online workshops, and everything is completely free and open for everyone to join.
Nice. Love that. Kelvin, Tell us about your decision to actually bring Brighton SEO to the US.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one for us because obviously, the event started out as like a relatively small gathering. For a long time it's been more and more people attending from further and further afield, and obviously that's lovely. And like I'm not from Brighton. I live there, and I love bringing people to the city of Brighton, and that's part of at various points in the history we could have gone, okay, well we'll just move it to London, and it would have been easier to have done that. But I do quite like bringing people together. But there's a practical challenge in terms of we're in the largest venue of the sort of that can handle a conference in Brighton. The hotels get pretty booked up. It's quite hard sometimes to to get along. So it's always been one of these ones. Like we're incredibly fortunate that many people want to attend and travel to that, but it's always very difficult for people. They want to come, but it's for a variety of reasons, like financially and for environmental reasons. Those kind of journeys sometimes can be a bit tricky. So it's been on our list to do additional locations for a number of times. But obviously and it'll kind of, I'm sure, be mentioned when we talk about it, that COVID had quite a big impact on terms of the events that used to occur and that currently occur, and that's kind of like thrown up in the air, kind of the routine or the industry to a certain extent. So we sort of saw that there was kind of there was never a better time, really, we felt, to try and experiment and do a US event from that kind of perspective. And we're very fortunate that, like, obviously in any business, it's all to do with people. So we're very fortunate that we were able to get Lindsay Jones, who used to run was responsible for Search Live and more recently HeroConf as well. So it's kind of serendipity of, like, we were thinking about doing it. There was an increasingly different calendar of events in the US, more and more people telling us we should be doing it, and finally bit the bullet and kind of decided to go to San Diego. So we're very excited about that. It's all shaping up to be a very exciting launch event, and we're kind of very excited about trying the event in a different location as well, because it's interesting as well. And I mean, I'm sure the other panelists will have their kind of view as well, but it's kind of it's amazing decisions that you end up making that kind of inform and create the event and the atmosphere and the programming and all of that sort of stuff. Sometimes they're just kind of like small decisions, but then you've done them and they become like part of the format of how the event works. So it's quite interesting to kind of like almost go back to the drawing board and kind of go, well, what is it that makes our event our event? What is the core to a Brighton SEO event that's that makes sense when we're doing it in a different location versus what's a kind of, and why did we make those decisions, and kind of considering it there. So it's really like often like boring operational stuff, but like, well, why we have 3 talks in a session that are all 20 minutes. Like, why is that the case? Is there is that the perfect way of doing it, or is that just kind of something that happened there? And being multi-track, things about the program, it's just interesting as a kind of a process to conceptually think about, like, well, why doing it because you did it like that one last time around is like a perfectly legitimate reason to do it. But like when you're kind of starting something new, it's interesting to kind of go and re-examine, and is that part of the value of why the event works, or it doesn't, or all of those types of things.
I love that. So we have Women in Tech SEO and Brighton SEO coming to the US. Brett, how do you feel about that? Obviously, being the
I'm very excited about it, actually. In 2012, I think there were 35 SEO related conferences you could go to in the United States. Between SES, us, SMX, you had Affiliate Summit that was covering some good ground. MozCon, I don't know if they had started by then, but there was just an SEO conference by every association in the United States. All the EMAs, South Florida, Dallas, Portland, Raleigh, San Diego, they all had conferences, and they're all gone now. The only ones left are us. MozCon, I'm hearing it might be the last MozCon. SES is gone. SMX is gone. They're just loaning their name in Europe now. So we're the only independent conference left in the States, SEO conference in the States. Everything else is association. Dallas is association. And then you got the corporate gigs. Search Love is gone too. So There needs to be a kind of a change over here to excite things again. Brighton coming over here, that'll mean a new format for some speakers, new format for the conference, get everybody in the industry excited, talking about it again. I think it's great for the whole industry, and actually it's great for conferencing in general. Whoever's running a conference, the more we talk about it, the better. And I know Kelvin feels the same way, that people say, well, it's competitive. We'll try not to step on each other's toes, but it happens. Sooner or later we will, and it'll be fine. 1 year with SES, we accidentally booked a conference directly against them, one in Chicago and ours in Vegas. And it just so happened to work out that Vegas was almost 85 degrees while Chicago was having a blizzard. It was kind of the storyline was, well, we're in Vegas riding down the strip in hot tubs in the back of the limo while they're freezing in Chicago. So there's an angle to everything, and sooner or later it's going to happen, something like that, and it's fine. We'll get by it. We've been through it long enough. But I think it's great for the whole industry. It really is good for the vendors, the exhibitors, the speakers, the attendees. It brings in a new focus and a new energy to the whole thing. So I'm actually very happy about it, and I'm going to attend, and I'm looking forward to it. So
I honestly am too. There's definitely no shortage of need of quality education and networking events in the industry. I think it'll just continue to grow. Speaking of that, so if I'm at a company or working independently and I have to choose one conference to go to, tell us what makes your event special and why we should pick it. You want to start, Arish?
Yeah, I think with Women in Tech SEO, it's one of those things where when you're a community member, you really want to come and experience it for yourself, because you get this energy of meeting, the folks that you hang out with online in person. So yeah, it's super exciting, and it's a very difficult vibe to try to explain in words. The whole day is just very uplifting and empowering and supportive, and everyone leaves it just with such high energy. And I think it's just this, this feeling of belonging and coming together. So even though we have, we are a one-track conference, so we tend to have around 10 talks in each conference, and a lot of them are very heavy when it comes to technical SEO, but we do have very long breaks, and we cater our breaks, and we make sure everyone's kind of in the same space the whole day so that we can all easily connect with one another. So I think it's something that, with community members, they'll kind of know it, because it's you get to experience the vibe in person as opposed to just online.
That makes sense. Brett, what about PubCon?
I would go back and argue with my boss that said I could only go to one. I think you can go to all of them, or go to one year and the next one the next year. They all have their own niche that they service. Kelvin said it, Reach said it. We've got our focus, and we bring a style and a unique presentation. For PubCon, we've been doing it for 20 years. This is our 21st or second year. That's 22nd. So COVID took our 20th anniversary. So there's so much. We haven't even talked about COVID yet and how it's completely changed conferencing entirely. And we're just now actually starting to come out of it, really. But for PubCon, we've got speakers that have been around for 10 years. We don't put anybody on stage we don't trust. We don't have people giving out bad information. It's all been vetted, time and true. A lot of this stuff is new. I talked about cutting edge stuff in my presentation, but a lot of it is old school. Some of the same dumb old stuff that you're not doing still works. So you need to get exposed to it. So I think the quality of our presentations over the years speak for themselves, and why people keep coming back to PubCon year after year after year. So
I agree. Kelvin, tell us about Brighton SEO. Why should we come?
Yeah, I think it's like, I definitely think that there's the industry benefits when the industry learns, right? That's kind of like my attitude to it. And I'm always really excited to see people who've been through the process, who have maybe started to learn a bit about SEO by coming to an event like ours, and then they get more involved and maybe ask a few questions, or start to kind of ask speakers about what they enjoyed on Twitter or whatever. and then they'll pitch to speak, and then they'll do a really good job of that. And then in a couple of years' time, they'll be mentoring future speakers. And then before you know it, they might be keynoting. And like, there's this kind of process that people go through. And I think that, like, it's, yeah, so from my perspective, it's like, yeah, I'm always excited to see that events are occurring. And it's all like slightly different. It's amazing the kind of, like practically they're in different places at different times of year, right? There are going to be things that work for people at certain times of the year that don't work for people at other times of the year. And there's different, like, the nature of a single track event versus a multi-track event is very different. So Brighton SEO is multi-track, many tracks as well. Lots of short talks. So we've got that kind of format of like, broad, lots of opportunity to go and choose and do things. And we'll often program things that like might be tricky for a single track event or other events to do. So it can be quite niche in its appeal. We often talk about stuff that's perhaps historically might not have been covered at a search event. So that might be management stuff, that might be inclusion, it might be like quite random sort of areas that we've got. But because we've got this, we're fortunate that our event is quite large, that we can bring together that kind of like, well, there are definitely 150 people who really want to learn about this thing. That would be tricky to do in a 150 people event if that was kind of the nature of that. So yeah, I mean, what makes Brighton SEO special? I mean, I think the locations are a big part for us. So when we were choosing the US event, we wanted one that kind of had that seasidey feel to it. It's a supportive, welcoming event there. We program our model allows us to do this, but like we predominantly choose our speakers based upon the talk title, then who's speaking, which I think like is a slightly different way of doing it, because we're not selling tickets in the same way, because there's many of, like, I don't know, 75% of the people who are attending Brighton SEO are able to attend for free. So that allows us to program in a slightly different way. So we'll kind of go, okay, well, like actually I prefer if someone's never spoken at an event before to some extent, because to me that means they're bringing a new perspective, they're bringing a new way of thinking about things. So I think that's something that we're like, we don't always do a perfect job of that, and there are people who we like, who we get back, and there's that degree of things. But yeah, that kind of bringing through new talent and giving them the opportunity to speak is something that I find hugely gratifying. And then again, when we're programming, we ask the audience a lot. So like when I'll group all the talks together, but I don't say this is a main stage talk, this is a small talk. It's like we go, okay, here are our talks. You tell us, audience, what you want to choose, and then we program off the back of that. And yeah, I do stupid stuff in fancy dress as well, so that's sort of like clearly a highlight for people as well. But that's the aspect. But yeah, it's that kind of like, again, it's just bringing people together. It's electrifying and motivating and all of this type of things. So I think the best events, people feel that there's that almost that they would, if you like, obviously we're like, I think all of us as like people who are organising them are very, very important. But I think probably these 3 events that we've got here, it feels to me like they're the ones that almost like we could disappear for 6 months and then the community would almost like want to organise it anyway. And I think that's a really good sign of a good event, is that almost that like the people,
the community, yeah. I think that's true. It's almost like coming home to a family reunion and you get to meet all of your best friends. I definitely have had a lot of speakers. I've always obviously been to a lot of PubCons, and I'd ask some of my friends that are speakers that have gone and done a lot of different types of conferences, what would be the next conference they would recommend. And Brighton SEO definitely comes up a lot. And women in tech SEO, you guys haven't been around as long, but I've heard a few that really recommend that as well. So I'm excited actually to get a chance to attend both and see. They do seem that like all of them have such a different vibe and different takeaway. We all kind of hear that some of the best parts of going to a conference, the benefits, besides from the highly educational content, is also the networking and the social events. And I don't know, Ari, what kind of events do you have for the networking side? I'm curious.
Yeah, so I mean, I think because our breaks are very, very long. Like, it was interesting for me when I attended a few US events and it was like coffee break, 20 minutes. I was like, what? Our break is like minimum 45, 50 minutes. I need people to talk. And so some of the things we're bringing to life as well is we have a really popular mentorship program, for example, that runs. And so what I try to do within the London Festival is have some form of like speed mentoring. Happen during one of the coffee breaks and like one of the rooms. So how to bring some of our popular initiatives to life and kind of like do it in a way that can be, that would encourage people who are attending by themselves and alone to not feel, to be able to easily meet other people and surround themselves with others. So I think we do that really, really well, where how can we, it's funny, like I would go around and I know who the active members are, and I would be like, can you please, if you see anyone standing alone, can you just please go say hi to them? And I know Brighton SEO, you do this so well. I remember a few years ago when you introduced, it's like you have different lanyard colors for people who always attend Brighton SEO, and it's like it's almost like your welcoming committee in a way. So it's like they're friendly, and you can go and approach them and stuff. So I think it's things like that, making everyone feel welcome and putting the effort to make sure people who are coming and attending alone will come out of it having met people, and it's almost like guided networking in a way, like you're giving them some support with that.
I actually really like that. And it probably gives more people a chance to connect with the speakers. I know usually like if there's 10 minutes between sessions, you're hustling, you don't get as much time. And not everyone is social. I would say our industry is probably very split, where we're introverts and extroverts. Everyone might not come to all the nightly events. So I think having the opportunity to connect and have a mentor. I remember my first conference, it was so intimidating, and I barely left the room, and I almost had a panic attack coming into I'm like, I don't have panic attacks. Why am I so nervous? But it's very much anxious when you're alone and you don't have your people yet. But talking, I think, and making friends and relationships, my best friends now are all from the search industry. So
And I think having said that, though, like something we also prioritize is making sure there is a quiet room. And we probably got this idea from Brighton SEO. Like, I love that. Like, not everyone, sometimes it can feel very overwhelming, especially after COVID and so on and all the social. So you need to make sure that you have this like quiet room or some kind of space as well for people to go in and decompress. So making the most out of your venue and your venue layout. And just, again, it's just all about being inclusive to people who might have different needs or so on.
Really great point. I love that. That would definitely come in handy for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's about that kind of just accepting that different people are going to want different things from the event, and it's trying to find the means to accommodate that as best as you can in the space and the format and the business model that you're kind of operating in. So it's like, yeah, we know that there are going to be people who are like there with their notes, right? They're there just for that, and that's entirely the experience that they're looking for. And then there's going to be other people who are attending who, like, in reality, the benefit of the event is just that because there are 1,000 people who they know in one city at one point in time and might almost never enter the event. And they're going to need a quite different thing from someone who's attending for the first time. It's like also supporting the speakers as well. That I know is lots of people do, but like we do things like, and we borrowed this. A lot of it's borrowing from other people, but like I went to State of Search in Dallas and they did the speaker tour, and I was like, wow, this is a really good idea. Why aren't we doing this? So then we started kind of going, okay, well, we'll get our speakers together. We'll walk around the spaces. We'll allow them to see the space before it all happens, because it's easy when there's 100 people there or 1,000 people there to get quite daunted. And that's lovely because it allows them to like familiarize themselves with the space. But then it's like then all the speakers are in one point at one point in time. And I know, Brett, you've got the speaker bit that you do. It's a similar sort of thing. And it's like, yeah, that kind of allowing the like occasion for these like first interactions to occur. So we do around activities now. So it's like, what do you like? Because like we were aware that like for a long time, Brighton SEO was a party one, right? That was kind of why people would go, but not everyone wants to go and get drunk, right? But people do, and that's fine. And we kind of, there's a route for that. But it's, yeah, we have the runs, we have the beach cleans, we do these types of things where they're like an environment to allow you to have that first conversation with someone. Because it's like, I'm incredibly awkward, right? But once you start talking to someone, it's like, okay, that we're doing a thing, and we can talk about the weather or whatever it is, and that then becomes your route to then talk about the SEO stuff or all that kind of thing.
It's just amazing how many little things we have tried over the years. You know, you talk about the Speakers Enclave, and one of the standard jokes was the Dallas people wanted to have their own little enclave. Next year, sure enough, the state of Search had a Speakers Enclave. But we do all these little things like mentorship programs and labs and on and on and on. And like you said, people come for that one little thing. And one year we had like 20 people sign up for our mentorship program. We're like, really? Only 20? Well, we're not going to do it again next year. Well, the next year I had people call me up. How come you're not doing the mentorship program? That was the only reason I was coming last year. That's the only reason I paid. Or the Speakers Enclave. Well, I'm going to pay a full price. I'm going to door crash the Speakers Enclave. You know? It's just amazing to me how many people come for just one thing at a conference, just one thing that talks to their needs, that services their needs in some way. And it's tough to keep that going year after year after year and know what's good and what's not. We've added some stuff and we've taken some stuff away, and it's kind of tricky year over year to see what has value and what doesn't have value. So
that is true.
It's not turnkey every year.
Bree asks, do you ever get anxious from the thoughts of your guests not getting value from the topics chosen?
Occasionally. Go ahead.
We all waited then all at once.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, it can't happen with Brighton SEO because you've got like over 100 talks happening. So it's kind of up to them what they want to attend, right?
I mean, I think that it's all about like trying to understand what people are looking for why they're attending. And I mean, it's like, obviously I'm aware of how, like, you know, whether you're paying for a ticket or paying for a train fare or arranging childcare or what, you know, like convincing your boss you've got a day off of work, like everyone who's attending is like, even when they've had a free ticket for one of our events, it's like they've paid in some way, right, for that. So there's a pressure there, but like it's good to have that pressure. So you're kind of thinking, well, what, you know, that caring about that's like the first challenge and that side of things. But then equally, it's accepting that different people appreciate different things, and you can't please everyone all of the time, right? So it's like we don't like, I know some events are really big into like speaker feedback, so they'll get kind of like getting numbers, and I can kind of see the logic of that. But like we did it for a while, and then when it was like a classic one would be like, we'd ask, and it was never directly about the speakers and us. We'd ask like, well, what do you like the most? What should we do differently? You know, what should we do less of? If you know what I mean, something like that. And it was amazing the amount of times where someone would kind of go, Speaker X is the best thing about your event. They're absolutely amazing. And then the next person would come and say, Speaker X was absolutely terrible and you should never let them speak ever again. And you're kind of going, well, that's, to me, actually, that's kind of okay, because the person who got the useful bit was the bit there. And it's not everyone's going to work for everybody, but it's trying to find that there's enough of those things that they're getting value from that's there. But it's you know, it could be a stressful thing to do, to kind of, you know, get up there and speak or decide what the programming is. And that's why I do a lot of the vote stuff. It's like I shift it out to other people. Let the public decide. That's my kind of logic. It takes the pressure off me somewhat in that kind of decision-making process.
I like that.
You know, I don't worry about it too much, because we're very careful with our session descriptions to be very descriptive of what's in the session, so that people know what they're going to get when they're reading the website or reading the book. And this goes back to, somebody else had a question about speaking tips, pitching tips. You know, pitch from your expertise and pitch exactly what you want the session to be about, what you're going to talk about, what you're going to cover. You know, we're in marketing, so sometimes we get these pitches that are all blue sky and flowery language, and you feel like they're trying to sell you a used car, you know, or excuse me, a pre-owned car. As they say in the car business. So be very specific when you pitch to us about what you're going to talk about, what you're going to cover, and what the attendee is going to take away from the session. And then make sure you deliver on that stuff. And even if the conference director or who's ever in charge of the session, the moderator, whatever, changes the description a little bit to fit some other panelist, go back and read the description before you finish your PowerPoint and make sure you speak to all the talks. Because one time we changed the session description and the guy goes, well, that's not what I pitched at all. And we're like, you didn't read the session description about what we wanted you to talk about? And go, no. And he had a completely different talk from what we put on stage. So there is some anxious there, but it all goes back to speaker prep to make sure they understand what attendees are going to take away.
I love that. Kelvin, so you said that you choose the topics and the speakers for those topics. How would someone go about becoming a speaker at Brighton?
We've got a pitch form up all year round. We don't do a formal process, which I think winds some people up, because it's like, have I been selected or not? And you can go, well, yes and no, because it's like there's we keep the list there because we've got so many different. We have 120 speakers at our events, so like we lose a few because that's the nature of like life happens. So we always like to have a portfolio ones there. But yeah, it's different like curators of events will look for slightly different things and how they kind of program their events. And obviously I think we probably ended up with like a Brighton SEO voice that sort of developed over time. But yeah, for us, it's like I'm a big fan of practical talks, those that are phrased as a question. It's often like how to do thing, and that thing, the more detailed that is, I love it, right? So like we'll often get people who are probably, in fact, certainly incredibly talented speakers who could put together an incredible talk, but haven't necessarily done a very good job of pitching what it is that they talk about. And they'd either go, and often it's too general. That's usually the reason. So it'll be like, I could do a talk about link building. And I'm sure if they had the slot, they would end up doing an exceptional talk about link building. But it's hard for me as a programmer to go, well, what's that actually about? And is that going to be practical? And what's it going to be? Whereas if someone's gone, how I'm using ChatGPT to do this particular aspect of SEO auditing, I'm like, I know what that talk is going to be. And I know that that'll go down well. So that's kind of what we're usually looking for, is that kind of the talk idea being specific is probably the key one to it as well. So I don't know. I'm sure there'll be different things that people will look for, but that, like, for us, is it. And also because we've got these 20-minute slots, we're again like trying to go, well, what will fit in a short compressed period of time? There'll be certain talks that we're like, yeah, you're not going to be able to do 100 tips on how to do this in 20 minutes. Even with many slides like Arish does, it's like there's an amount that you can do in that period of time. And sometimes people they're too ambitious in what they're pitching to talk about.
Slow down. You can't possibly speak that fast. Women in Tech SEO, how does someone pitch?
Yeah, we have a pitch form as well, but we open it for a specific period of time. So for example, our London one, we have, I don't know, I think we open it up for like 2 to 3 month period, around 6 months ahead of the event is usually when we do it. And we try, in terms of the question about being worried about your audience, so we always release our agenda like very, very detailed, spec'd out quite early on, like a good maybe 4 to 5 months early on, so that everyone knows who's speaking, what are the topics, what they're talking about. So then they kind of know what to expect when they buy a ticket. But something I found very helpful with our pitch process is one of the pitches that came through like a year ago was just perfect. It was written so well. It had like the excellent skeleton. It explained everything. And that person ended up being one of my speakers. And then I said, can I please share your perfect pitch as the example of a perfect pitch in our future pitch forms? And she said yes. So actually that's so, because then you're kind of giving that additional guidance that speakers need. They might have an awesome idea, but they're not quite sure exactly how to phrase it or how to write it. And you're kind of giving them like that nice template that works quite well for you. So that might be a cool one for other organizers to do something similar as well.
I like that. So general rule is don't get lazy, give details. A lot of information. So Brett, you brought up COVID and how it affected conferences. I would love to hear from everyone actually how COVID affected you. What was the biggest impact that it had to your business, and how do you think you survived?
My retirement savings. That's the only way we survived. I dug way into that baby. My 401k is now a 201k. But
we're glad you did.
Yeah, we just had, for starters, we had the brand. After 20 years in the business, everybody knows who we are and everybody respects us in the industry, and we try to stay on everybody's good side. And we tried all the virtual stuff. We did one here on StreamYard. What a big marker. We did one. And what became clear after a couple of them was really nobody wanted that stuff. Just, you get 2,000 people signed up for a free web conference, and some session has 20 people in it. And you're going, why are we even doing this? Nobody wanted to sit through online conferences. They just didn't. I went to a couple of big shows, even, South by Southwest had many a session that had nobody attending online. So clearly people just didn't want online attendance. Some of the older stuff actually did better that we reran on different channels than the new stuff live. So there was clearly a problem there. And when you look at what happened in the industry as a whole, U.S. Meeting Planners Association say that 75% now of the conferences under 1,000 people in the United States are gone. They're gone. 75%.
Rest in peace. 75%
are gone. So I feel lucky to be here, and that's why I'm glad. Hey, thanks for coming over, Kel. Thanks for joining the party. Maybe we can kickstart something here together, get everybody excited again. So, but it's slowly coming back. It's coming back, and we may have an announcement about next spring here. I'm waiting for a contract, so we may be headed back to Vegas again soon. So.
That was going to be one of my next questions. Is PubCon ever going back to Vegas? Well,
we're working on it for the spring.
Exciting news. What about Brighton SEO?
Yeah, I mean, we did online stuff and we still do. I mean, it's interesting kind of in the context of the environmental question as well. So it's one of the things that's always felt a bit of a shame. So we do the ballot process. So people apply for a free ticket and many aren't able to attend. So we were it's worked quite well. It's kind of going, well, the online is a way for people to experience that who couldn't for the reasons of that, or can't for the financial reasons, or personal reasons or whatever. So it's been good. So it's given us the nudge to do some of that perhaps we should have done more in terms of thinking about that aspect of things. I mean, we were very fortunate in how it fell in the various ways, shapes, or forms that I think sometimes, depending where you were at in your sequence of events, can have had quite a big impact in how you dealt with it. So we had to make the decision to cancel our event. And so we ended up cancelling the same day as the English Premier Leagues, the football, soccer. They cancelled their matches. And so I think we were half an hour before them or half an hour after them announcing, and then 2 or 3 days later. So there was no there was no question why we should have been, but we had a lot of kind of that period where it's well, is it sensible to be running the events in the way that we did? So yeah, we did online events. Strangely, I think it's interesting because some events have switched to that, and I think for certain types of organization and certain types of learners, that's actually can be a better margin, to be completely honest, from a kind of making money side of things, because you're not paying for a venue, you can it's there's some interesting bits there, but it never really worked for us in terms of the primary source of things. So there's different reasons why people will run events, and it didn't scratch the itch for me in terms of the motivation of why I do events. So we came back early. We probably should have I think we technically lost 4 events in terms of what we should have missed, but I think we ended up cancelling 6 because each time we were trying to we'll do one another time round, and all of that kind of thing.
That's what we missed with 6.
Yeah. So I mean, we're very fortunate in how it worked, and we are hugely thankful to the sponsors and the who.
Right.
Did the venue? The people who bought tickets who didn't demand refunds and were happy to wait for us to do the next event when we did it, and
how were the venues? did the venues give you any static?
Our venue, yeah, we did. Yeah, we were really fortunate. So the Brighton Centre is our main venue, are owned by the council. So actually, there was a strange scenario for us actually that so we couldn't. One of the events we might have come back a little bit sooner, but we couldn't because we were waiting because our venue was like a vaccination centre. So like it ended up getting changed to a vaccination centre. So like it was a strange old period when you look back at it. But like when we did our first events, there were still like the signs up from like, I've got one in my office over there where it's like, from the COVID vaccination centre, because that's what it was used for that period of time. So yeah, we were fortunate in how it fell. But like obviously, the demand that people have had to come back to events afterwards has come back in various ways, shapes, or forms. So yeah, we're hugely pleased about that.
Nice.
Well, I know the industry is definitely grateful to have live events back in running in options, which is very exciting. I would love, we're getting really close, but I want to hear some fun stories from everyone about their favorite moments, or tell us something fun or exciting, your favorite memory from your conference. Arish, do you have one?
Yeah, I'm happy to start. I think it was the very first one, and we had Kirsty Hulse, brilliant speaker, wrapping us up that day. And I was like, my eye were on the time, and I was like, okay. And then she was kind of like, she wasn't really wrapping up. She wouldn't get off stage. I was like, what is going on? And then the screen behind her switched, and it was this massive Trello board that the community had put together behind my back that kind of talked and shared all these things about how much women in tech SEO means for them. And by then it was like I was like running on adrenaline the whole day, and it was like a complete happy emotional breakdown moment for me. But it was so it's like the audience somehow pulled it by going up to the AV room and asking them to make sure they put that after the last talk. So yeah, and Kirsty was in on it. I love her so much for that, but that will always be a very, very fond memory.
What a wonderful surprise. I know everyone loves and adores you and everything that you've done for the women in tech community and women in SEO in general. So that is so sweet. I love it. Brett, what about you? Your favorite?
Probably PubCon Florida. It was right after the Florida update, famous Google Florida update, 2004. We had a conference down there. It was our first big one, our first 4-track conference. We had like 500 people. I didn't know what I was doing. We had 4 tracks. We had exhibitors out there. I had no experience with what we were doing, and we were this kind of a dive hotel. It was a conference center, so we went to a conference center in Orlando, and on the last day, we went to our traditional PubCon in the pub, and we come back to the hotel, and there were half-naked women running around the hotel, and we're like, "What is going on here?" And it turned out the hotel had switched over to a swingers convention. An open marriage convention. And so we had all these SEOs sitting in the lobby watching this, and we were like, unbelievable.
Awkward.
Anybody who was in PubCon Florida in 2004 still talk about that conference at that dive hotel. It's just a memory that stands out in every conference. Somebody brings up PubCon Florida to this day, 20 years later. So it was fun.
That's classic. Kelvin.
Oh, I'll do my one. Yeah. So sometimes you get asked, what's an interesting fact or story about yourself? So this is one that's kind of a memorable one that sticks because I always roll it out for that. But so you'll all probably know ABBA, of like the music phenomenal group that they are, and they rose to prominence. I don't know how, like, for people who aren't in Europe, but they won Eurovision. So that, like, this big Eurovision Song Contest, which is like a competition for Europe. Someone from each country sings a song and they vote for the one that is most popular. And ABBA won Eurovision in Brighton at the Dome, which was our old venue. And I can say I've played swing ball, so the game where like on the stage where ABBA won Eurovision. So I think that's kind of like, many people may not appreciate what SEO is and what Brighton SEO is about, but it's given me the opportunity in a silver shiny like game show jacket to be playing swing ball on the stage where one of the most successful music acts in history ever, like rose to prominence. So that's kind of something that will like stay with me forever in as a as a moment.
Fifth grade in grade school, they were my first concert ever.
No way.
I'm live.
That's awesome. I'm a fan of Dancing Queen for sure. So, well, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I had such a pleasure. Everyone in the audience watching, we appreciate you for tuning in. Be sure to go and follow everyone on social, join the communities, and hopefully we'll see you at a future conference event. Have a great day.
Shelley.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks all.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.